Puppies. Oh yeah, everybody's there. There's our audience. There's Buddy. Oh, Mocha's out of the screen. No one wants to see Mocha.
No one wants to see our dogs.
No one wants to care about the dogs. What is your favorite game? Like board game? Do you like board games?
Yeah, easy ones.
Easy ones. So no.
So we're opposite there.
No
too.
thinking. No. No. You know what I've realized is that I like games without.
You like strategy games, but you don't even really like games.
No, we were playing a game the other day, and I was just laying cards, and it was fun. And then I played Uno the other day, and I was like, oh, this is a fun game. And I didn't have to really think. But the games that I typically engage in are like strategy, like Monopoly and Risk. But those seem like arduous now.
Yeah, because you make them like...
competitive. No, it's just like a win.
No.
Do you like Settlers of Catan?
No, you win like as if it's the thing that you needed to do in order to survive.
Competitive.
Ridiculous.
Once I played Monopoly at the cottage when we were in grade 9 and 10, and I believe that I won 23 games in a row.
I'm sure everybody was having a really good time.
Well, people can't be having a bad time if they're going to play more than like 2 games.
Well, there's not a whole lot else to do, especially if it's
That's
raining.
true. There's no
Was it
TV.
raining?
There's no
there's
internet.
no TV. There's no internet.
There's no internet back then. But I like Settlers of Catan, kind of. Not
you
really.
don't even like games.
No, I don't.
You literally never want to play a game.
Do you think that is because of the internet?
I think it's because you're lazy.
That's what I'm talking about. Like,
Yes.
Do you think that we've stopped doing certain things like playing games, going for walks, hot tubbing?
No. I think that you have just decided that you are 40 some years old and you just don't want to do the things that you don't want to do.
What's tonight? Tonight's a free night. We should play a game and let Jordan pick.
No.
Let's play Monopoly.
You never want to play a game with me when I ask you, and so I'm not going to agree to
I believe that I played your last game called Sequence.
Video.
Called Sequence. And you won like 14 in a row?
Yeah, and then you didn't want to play with me anymore.
Well, after 14 games, shouldn't there be an end? Like, what's the end game?
No, one game.
Bedtime? How about we play a game today?
You can ask Jordan, but
Settlers of Catan.
he probably won't want to.
Can we do Settlers?
You can ask Jordan.
All right. Would you play, though?
Yeah.
Or would you play Risk?
Yes. I'll play anything.
Anything.
I've asked you guys, like, often.
Settlers or Risk? Not the train game. The train game is...
This conversation's gone on too long.
Okay. Remember Rook? Did you guys play Rook?
No.
You know what game that I do not like is Dutch Blitz. Because typically you play it with women. And what I found out is that for some odd reason, women dominate. And it's not even fun. Like, dominate, and it's kind of athletic
It's
because
very quick. It's quick
very
game.
quick.
I'm surprised that you don't like it.
And I don't
like
want
to
to hear
quick.
that I'm not quick, but there's something about it that women are much better at it.
I think there's probably some men out there that are good at Dutch Blitz.
But women are better. They probably get dominated by women. All right, let's do our morning devotional, something that we will hopefully meditate on throughout the day and bring a spiritual practice to us.
We didn't video yesterday, but did you do the reading?
No, I didn't do the reading. I got carried away. Oh, it's called Strength. Did you do the reading?
Yeah, I thought it was very good.
I like how you called me out on camera. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I also have a pop-up that comes up halfway through the day.
Oh.
From the Language of Letting Go app. No, I read it in the morning.
Man, I should get that
The pop-up comes halfway through the day, and then I get to read it again and be reminded what we talked about.
Because sometimes I just don't do it, and then, yeah, that's good. Very good. Okay, so it is February the 24th. Hey, hello, it's your turn to read.
Recognizing feelings.
Oh.
Experiencing feelings can be a challenge if we've had no previous experience or permission to do that. Learning to identify what we're feeling is a challenge we can meet, but we will not become experts overnight, nor do we have to deal with our feelings perfectly. Here are some ideas that might be helpful as you learn to recognize and deal with feelings. Take out a sheet of paper. On the top of it, write, if it was okay to feel whatever I'm feeling, and I wouldn't be judged as bad or wrong, what would I be feeling? Then write whatever comes to mind. You can also use the favorite standby of many people in discovering their feelings, writing or journaling. You can keep a diary, write letters you don't intend to send, or just scribble thoughts onto a notepad. Watch and listen to yourself as an objective third person might. Listen to your tone of voice and the words that you use. What do you hear? Sadness, fear, anger, happiness? What is your body telling you? Is it tense and rigid with anger, running with fear, heavy with sadness and grief, dancing with joy? Talking to people in recovery helps too. Going to meetings helps. Once we feel safe, many of us find that we open up naturally and with ease to our feelings. We are on a continual treasure hunt in recovery. One of the treasures we're seeking is the emotional part of ourselves. We don't have to do it perfectly. We need only be honest, open, and willing to try. Our emotions are there, waiting to share themselves with us. Today, I will watch myself and listen to myself as I go through my day. I will not judge myself for what I'm feeling. I will accept myself.
My favorite part?
Yeah?
Our emotions are there waiting to share themselves with me. This is great. Do you see me getting out a piece of paper?
So,
I think it. Yeah. Would you? Please?
So this book is Daily Meditations on Codependency, and sometimes I feel like we read it, and maybe it's not something that you've struggled with, and so I don't know that. I mean, I think that this one in particular is one that you've grown a lot in many areas.
Hey, thank you.
Over the last 10 plus years. And so I think that we're so different. Whereas like I would be like emotions all over the place and just really not understanding. Yeah. Anger and
happy. And I would drink for both of them. Oh, I'm feeling so happy.
I should go drink.
I need to drink. So angry right now. I'm so hurt. I feel sorry for myself. Go drink.
Yes. And I remember when you came home sober and like we'd have a little argument in early recovery.
I remember.
It was like the end of the world.
I remember coming back to this environment and I'm sober going, how do people live? Like, this is impossible. Like the kids and the yelling and the up and down and the, like, I'm going in the bathroom. Like, why is everybody in here? And I was like, first time that I'm aware that my time isn't mine and my money is not mine. It's when you have kids. And it's like all these emotions are just like, they're like a boiling pot.
So I do recognize that I often had surface emotions that were the ones that I was comfortable with and that I would go to. However, I often didn't know how I was really feeling or what was going on underneath those emotions. So anxiety, that's one, like I'm anxious, or my feelings are hurt. You know,
those are your two.
Those are like my two.
I'm angry and happy, and you're anxious and hurt. The beautiful thing.
Or I was happy, but I was happy, like pretending happy, like everything's great, everything's wonderful. But it was almost like I often talk about the game of that little whack-a-mole where like the little head pops up and you have to whack it down.
That's your favorite game. Let's play whack-a-mole tonight.
That was my life.
That was your life. The game of life.
And so, and it's true, like that, you know, if I was frustrated or if there was really something, you know, wrong that I wanted to talk about, that was actually really hard for me to say, like, and I think even now it's still not necessarily entirely easy for me to, like, I always feel bad. I always feel wrong. And so for me to not
like those are the ones that dominate.
Yeah. And
emotions.
so, you know, especially when it comes to like, you know, making mistakes or going out on a limb or initiating a conversation that might be difficult, I react often pretty negatively because I'm so fearful of my thoughts, or I'm so fearful of being wrong that like I'm really reactive if things don't go the way that like I was hoping that they would, or that that feels.
Well, I like what she said. Talking to people in recovery helps too. So that I think that fellowship is super important. I think a lot of times we want to be lone wolves, and we're just holding a basket of emotions. But if we have fellowship, or you have a sponsor, or you have people that you're working with, then you can bring that to them and go like, I have this. Like, can you relate to that? Can you?
Oh, I didn't make this up all by myself. That came up in my meeting with my sponsor yesterday.
That's beautiful. I remember the first time that I was slapped with, my life was built on a foundation of fear. And I was in treatment. And I'm like, I'm the least fearful person that I would know. And I'm very aggressive and very brash. And it's like when I'm sitting in a treatment center at a homeless shelter and God reveals to me that my foundation is fear. I was like, I laughed. I thought it was funny. I was like, couldn't believe it. I'm like, how do you not know that? And so even going through the work of, like, even the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says we are being driven by something else. We're being driven by fear, 100,000 forms of fear. And so I think it's a beautiful thing to actually write it on paper. And so
I think so. I listened to a podcast, and in the podcast they were talking about kind of very similarly. They were actually talking about therapy, and there are two people who both go to therapy, but they both have different rhythms for it. Hers is she goes once a month, and then when she needs to, she goes like many times. Like, she'll go often for a couple months or 3 months to work through something, but maintenance is once a month. The guy was saying he winds up pretty much going every 2 years. He's like, I don't do it on purpose, but every 2 years I feel like I need like 2 months of therapy. And so he'll go to a therapist for 2 months. And what they were talking about was how going to therapy and journaling and writing gives you a place to put down your deepest feelings. And so once you've released yourself of those deepest feelings, like those are out there, those are on paper, those are in a letter that you tear up or burn or whatever, those are at the therapist, then you can go through life with your other feelings. Like your deepest feelings, the ones that aren't safe to like necessarily expose to the whole world, have been addressed and presented and given space in you, like from you, so that then those aren't what want to dominate anymore.
Well, the beautiful thing about us, like recovery people, we don't necessarily need therapists. Right. We have a program of action.
Yes.
And then what we realize when we write all this stuff out, like we write our emotions, we write the fears, and then we realize there's nothing that I can do against it. Like, it's like, right. I'm not going to like introduce myself to spiders because I have this fear. I'm not going to, I actually have to get God to remove the root of the cause of these emotions that are dominating my life. And I just did a project where I had a cue card all week long, and I wrote down the fears that popped up throughout the day. And then at the end of the week, I was asked to look at that and was asked to go, which out of the fears was I reactive to? Which fears controlled a day, or I lost a day? And so a lot of them I didn't. A lot of them just came up, and I was like, oh, I recognize it. And then there was some that was. And then my sponsor said, if you're being dominated by 3 or 5 fears or whatever that looks like on your sheet, then if God's perfect love casts out fear, then there's parts of you that you would assume that aren't connected to God. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a good exercise to do. And so our goal is to be connected and be filled by God. And so then we're not being controlled by fear or anger or any of that stuff.
Well, that's exactly what they were talking about, which is exactly how I was able to relate to it. Because I thought, I don't feel like I need to go to therapy. I think lots of people should, because they need that outlet, or they could go join a 12-step program. But giving, like, even for me, writing through my resentments and stuff right now, like writing is giving it to God. And then it has less power over me. And I think.
What did you say? That you're revealing yourself to God?
Yeah.
You said that last night. I thought it was really interesting.
So going through the process of like actually writing out so doing a 4th step in 12-step is writing out like resentments and what was my part. And it's not about like revealing myself to me. It's about revealing myself to God, Because then God sees me. I'm giving God permission to see all of me, and then he can deal with it.
Mhm.
It's not me trying to deal with it. I'm not working on it. I'm not trying to make it go away.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, like, God, here it all is. Here's everything ugly about me.
It's an interesting concept because when Adam and Eve were led into and chose independence, they hid from God.
They hid.
And so God, it's not like he didn't know where they were, but
Yeah.
he asked. And they covered themselves up. And so we do that with God. So part of this is revealing yourself to God. Not that he doesn't know already.
He knows. But I think it's our willingness. It's our willingness to say,
to be known.
This is my ugliness. This is my yuck. Make it go away. Please make it go away.
Because it controls me. It drives my life. All right. We have to go. I'm leaving.
Goodbye.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
You can keep going. Game night tonight.
Press stop.
All right. Press stop.
Just
Bye,
press
friends.
stop.
Have a great afternoon.
Have a good day.
Have a great day. Tell somebody that